Hello friends, welcome back. In this video, we will discuss some more Para Jumble questions that are generally asked for CAT and other management entrance examinations. We have discussed a lot of Para Jumble exercise in the previous video, so you might have really got an understanding on what are the steps to be followed in tracking the Para Jumble exercises or questions. So in this video, we'll be discussing some more advanced level questions. So the techniques will remain the same. Uh, in the beginning, let me tell you what I have always been telling you. That is, you first do the exercise and then come back and watch the video. Only then your understanding will be perfect and you'll be taking home all the learning points properly and correctly. So the link to the exercise is given in the video description. Please click on the link, do the exercise, come back and watch the video. All right, we will straight away go to the questions. So this question is basically talking about conduction of electricity through certain materials. What are the problems? And then it is talking about a particular material called stanium. So it can be divided into two parts. One part which is talking about this particular material, another part which talks about conduction of electricity through materials and what are things that happen. So here, if you focus on the uh, option C, D, and E. What can you find? You can easily find a connection between the sentences. That is, materials conduct electricity when electrons flow through them. However, in most materials, electrons are held up by impurities and other features that give rise to resistance. And this resistance, so whatever resistance we are talking about here, this resistance generates it. So we can easily see that EDC is a sequence. He is talking about how materials are conducting electricity, and then what are the problems that happen means there is a because of the impurities resistance is created for the conduction, and because of this resistance heat is generated, so electronics must be cooled to stop them from melting. So this is a sequence. Then we have two statements. Stanion promises to change all that. So what is that? Stanion promises to change all these problems that we have discussed in the sentences EDC. So you can very easily say that A will be the next sentence. EDCA, right? Now, stanion is an insulator on the inside and a conductor on the outside. So, where can we put this statement? Should be so. If you look at the options, you can see that there is one option. There are two options where we have EDCA. All other options you can ignore. EDCA, B is coming as a last sentence. Then B is coming as the first sentence, and then EDCA. So you will be having some confusion. You can very easily rule out this one. Rule out this one also, because these are not having the sequence. Now, where would we put B? Styrene is an insulator on the inside and a conductor on the outside. If you put this here, what is this scientist telling? It says that styrene is an insulator on the inside and a conductor on the outside. Then we talk about the problems of electricity conductivity and how electrons must be cooled and all. Then styrene promises to change all that. So that is not going to be very effective. Why? Because the sentence is not clear on how styrene is promising to change the problems that happen when materials conduct electricity. Having an insulator on the outside, how it is changing the problem, we do not know. It is not stated here, because it only says the styrene is an insulator on the inside and a conductor on the outside. The passage says that any material, when it conducts electricity, heat is generated. So a conductor on the outside means still it is a conducting electricity. This material is conducting electricity on the outside, heat will be generated. So how that heat is going to be cooled, that is not given here. So BEDCA will not be a good sequence. It is not going to be logical. Whereas if you put B at the end, what does that mean? It might mean that you can have one more sentence after this, or it might be, it will say that if styrene promises to change all that, styrene is an insulator on the inside and a conductor on the outside, then probably the next statement which will be succeeding this would say that because of this insulation that is available in the inside, the heat generated will be lower than normal materials, as a result of which there is no need to cool the electronics. That could be the reason why styrene is promising this sentence is there. Styrene is promising all that. So that one more sentence is required. If you put B here in the beginning itself, that sentence, even if you put A after that, it will not be too much logical, because there was no need to put B in the beginning. B should be coming in only in the end. So if you are planning to put one more sentence here, we should always come before that sentence, because we are describing the how stannison is promising to change all that. First, we can say stannine is an insulator on the inside and a conductor on the outside. Because of an insulation that is available on the inside, the heat generated due to conductivity will be low, so there is no need for cooling. So that might be the reason, or there may be some other reason. We don't know. So that becomes logical only if you put in this particular manner EDCAB. That is why this is not the more logical or answer or the better answer. Better answer will always be EDCAB option 2. So you can see the sentences that are arranged in the proper sequence. Materials conduct electricity when electrons flow through them. Most materials, electrons are when the resistance is created and the resistance generates it. Stannine promises to change all that. Stannine is an insulator on the inside and a conductor on the outside. Then another sentence which talks about how being an insulator and a conductor at the same time can change the way the electronics is conducting, or the electronics is not getting heated up like other electronics. That might be the sequence. That is why EDCAB is a better answer than BEDCA. Right? All right, go to the next question. If you read the sentences might seem a little bit tough to you. You might need a second or a third reading in this particular Para Jumble question to understand the concept that is being discussed here. So once you do a second or third reading, you will know that the passage is basically talking about the importance of landscape connectivity between fragmented habitat. What is a fragmented habitat? What is a habitat? Habitat is a natural environment for a particular plant species or an animal species is called a habitat, or a natural environment in which that particular plant or animal thrives and it is able to survive. That is called a habitat. And what is happening? Now these habitats are getting fragmented because there are some gaps are created between the habitats. As a result of which the habitats become separated. So when the habitats become separated, the survival of the species is not very easy, or it becomes threatened. So the passage is saying that there need to be some kind of landscape connectivity between different habitats which are separated from each other. This is necessary for conservation value. And when why this habitat connectivity is required? Because the years of research and study have found that whenever the habitats are connected, the wildlife populations are able to be managed and they are able to survive more easily. And this concept, there is a concept called island biogeography, which is how this landscape connectivity has evolved. The concept has evolved from this particular theory called island biogeography, which is an assumptional framework and understanding explaining the dynamics and distribution of wildlife. So how wildlife is distributed in fragmented habitats, what is the dynamics that is dictating the survival of the different species in fragmented habitats, how they can be encouraged to survive in these habitats. These are all given in this particular concept called island biogeography. Then we have one more statement talking about the different methods in which this kind of landscape connectivity can be established. So if you examine the statements very, very closely, you will understand that there is a logical flow between the sentences. The normal techniques that we generally use using pronouns and other kind of things, it will not work here. This is an advanced level question where these kind of things will not work. A deeper understanding of each and every sentence only will help you to unjumble this passage and make the proper logical connection. So what should be the first sentence? From whatever I have discussed, you have been paying attention closely, you can understand that D will be the first sentence, because it talks about the need for connectivity between fragmented habitats. Systematic studies of habitat fragmentation have recommended proper land use because fragments connected by a linkage means land should be used properly to establish a linkage between the fragmented habitats with a suitable, similar and suitable habitats. Means whatever habitats are separated from other suitable or similar habitats, they need to be connected because they have a greater conservation value. So this is the reason for landscape connectivity because they have a greater conservation value than isolated fragments. So D is introducing the subject why landscape connectivity between fragmented habitats are required because that will be able to better conserve the plant and animal species that are in the fragmented habitats. Then what should be the next statement? See, there is a connection between B and B. What is the connection? The concept of landscape connectivity for safe movement and migration derives from pragmatic knowledge of and years of study and management. So, this concept of landscape connectivity, how it evolved? So, it evolved from years of study of management and wildlife operation. So, the next sentence is justifying the first sentence. So, the next sentence should justify the first sentence where it says that we need to have a landscape connectivity. Why we need to have a landscape connectivity? Because this theory says that whenever there is a landscape connectivity for safe movement and migration, this is going to be easy for management of wildlife operations. So through years of study, we have established this. So that is why this concept is very much required. Or then the concept is what is the underlying principle behind the concept. So what is the underlying principle behind the concept? Is based on a framework for understanding and explaining the dynamics and distribution of wildlife. So we are talking about the concept first and how the concept is, what is the theory behind the concept. So that is next sentence. It says that which is an assumptional framework means lot of assumptions which are based on observations. Assumptions are always based on facts, right? So assumptional framework means body of theory or a structure of a theoretical structure which are based on a lot of assumptions based on observations for understanding and explaining the dynamics of distribution of wildlife in permanent habitats. Means whatever habitats are remaining, how the dynamics and distribution of wildlife is there in the remaining habitats. These have been incorporated into a theory, and that theory is known as the concept of biogeography. So the landscape connectivity, the need for landscape connectivity is based on this concept. So that is why DBA becomes a sequence. So first we talk about the why landscape connectivity is required. Then what is the underlying or what is the principle and why on what theory this principle is based on. Then you can talk about which are the different methods in which we can establish habitat connectivity. So that is why it says that there are actually different habitat patterns and land configuration that ensure ecological connectivity. So in order to ensure the ecological connectivity, there are different methods by which we can connect the land configurations or habitats for faunal species, for wildlife species, wildlife communities, and ecological processes, including what predator-prey relationship. This is an ecological process. So the relationship between a predator and a prey is an ecological process. The relationship, nutrient and hydrological cycles is also an ecological process. So all the ecological processes and the development of faunal species can be ensured by doing this habitat connectivity through different patterns. So this is the sequence. So first we talk about the need for landscape connectivity between fragmented habitats. Then why it is required. A lot of observations have been conducted, and on the basis of which this is very important for management. And the theory behind this particular principle, which is the concept of island biogeography, and a last sentence, how it can be done. So DBAC is the very clear and correct answer for this particular question. This question cannot be answered using the traditional para jumble and jumbling techniques. You need to have a very good understanding regarding whatever is stated in the passage. Only then you will be able to see the connection. So this is a really tough question, but if you are a good reader, you will be able to unjumble this without too much of a problem. The concept how is based on what, and what is the theory underlying the concept, and what are the different methods in which this connectivity can be ensured. So what the need for connectivity, the why it is required, what is the theory, how it can be done. So DBAC is the clear answer for this question. All right, now go to question number 3. It is talking about the relationship between India and China and how the relationship is, what are the dynamics of the relationship, and the different things that India is doing as a result of which China is worried or they becoming nervous. All these things are stated here. So, what should be the, we can try to establish a connection between the sentences. How can you establish a connection? China apparently takes India more seriously when the latter is on good terms with the US. When India is more friendly with USA, China takes India very seriously, or China is becoming nervous. So this can be a then what can be the next sentence? Definitely, it cannot be the next step. That also happens to be the yardstick by which most Indians would measure the success of their country. Are we measuring the success of our country on the basis of how close we are with the USA? No. So this is not a good. A cannot be followed by B. As many third country China observers and Beijing is most nervous when about India when the latter seems to combine rapid economic growth and political freedom. So this is a slight contradiction because here it says that China takes India seriously when we are friendly with the USA. Then here he has said that Beijing becomes nervous when India is combining economic growth with political freedom. Means whatever we are doing, whenever there is a development in domestically. So here it is external relationships. Here it is domestic development. So these two sentences are actually contradicting each other. So this cannot be a good answer. So what could be the better one? Yes, this one. But ultimately, it is really about what India does at home. So here, from once we understand that, then the logic also becomes clear. So A can be a sentence which talks about how India is apparently, China is apparently taking India more serious. Here, the word apparent is also very important. Apparently means it would appear that China is taking India more seriously when India is on good terms with the USA. Then we can say, but ultimately it is really about what India does at home. So this sentence is definitely followed by here because we are talking about a contradiction here. This is not true. India is ultimately, but the word but is very, very important. But ultimately, it is really about what India does home. So it is not about our relationship with USA. It is about what India is doing at home that matters. So what is it India doing at home? Yes, this one. When the latter combines rapid economic growth with political freedom. At that time, what happens? Beijing is most nervous. So it would appear that China becomes nervous when India is friendly with the USA, but it is ultimately actually about what India does. So that is why when India is combining economic growth with political freedom, that is what we do at home. Beijing becomes very nervous. So this is the sequence. Do we have any sequence like this here? This would appear like a sequence. Do we have any sequence here? Not A, B, C, not A, no, sorry. A, B, C, right. So we have one ADC. No other sequences are there. So this you can avoid, this you can avoid, this you can avoid. And B is very clearly the last sentence. That also happens to be the yardstick, which also happens India combining economic growth with political freedom. That is the yardstick by which Indians would measure the success of their country. So, whenever our country is having a lot of economic growth along with political freedom, we would realize that India is a developing country. It is becoming a successful country. So, that is the yardstick or the measure by which we Indians are also measuring the success. And not only China, Indians also measure success of our country by the same yardstick. So ADCB becomes a very clear answer. All others are wrong. So go to the sequence here. ADCB, China apparently takes India. Means it would appear that China takes India seriously when the latter is on good terms. But ultimately, it is really about what India does. So, as many third country China observers have noted, China Beijing is nervous, not when they are on good terms with the USA, but when India becomes an economic powerhouse along with political freedom. That is also the yardstick by which Indians are also judging the success country. So very clearly, ADCB is the answer. All right, question number 4. Question number 4 is talking about immigration, whether immigration should be controlled or not controlled. So the discussion is going on in Europe and in Great Britain. So people are divided on the issue of immigration. So this is the subject that is being talked about here. Now, by reading the sentences, you may not be able to clearly form a sequence directly. So what you have to do is form sentence pairs. So what is the sentence pair you can form from this? Immigration is now among the top concerns of voters in Britain, as in most Western countries. So immigration is a very big concern among the voters in Britain and in most Western countries. Then witness the recent Swiss referendum vote to limit the number of EU citizens entering Switzerland. So the voters, what is a referendum? Opinion poll among the voters of a particular country is called a referendum. So here the referendum was conducted among the citizens of Switzerland, and they voted to limit the number of EU citizens entering Switzerland. Means they said that all the European Union countries should not be given free access into Switzerland. There should be some limit to the number of people who are entering Switzerland. So this directly connects with the concern of voters in Western countries. So not just in Britain, but in Western countries. So you can say ED is a sentence pair. E talks about the why immigration is a top concern among voters in Western democracies, and D talks about an example of that concern. So ED is a sequence. Then what other sequence can you find? Or see, not sequence, a pair. So what other pair you can find? Since I'm critical of British government policy on immigration, let me start by recognizing the problem. So here, the author is critical of British government policy on immigration. So he says that, let me start by recognizing the problem. What is the problem? The immigration problem. So what is the problem here? What can be the problem? A is the problem. Why? Because what is the problem in Britain? As per the theoretical political understanding, or a hypothetical universe, or in a imaginary universe. So political theorist is a person who is living in an imaginary universe. So as per his theory, it is illiberal to control immigration. Means it is not the sign of a liberal society to control immigration. So the theoretically, a politician would say that any liberal society should not control immigration. But in the real world, this is not the thing. Controlling immigration is the precondition for preserving a liberal society. So this is the problem. So this is the problem why a lot of issues regarding immigration are there in the British government, because the politicians think that Britain being a liberal society, they should not control immigration, but they do not understand that the first condition to preserve a liberal society is to control immigration. So, or a precondition for preserving a liberal society. So this is why there is a contradiction or a dichotomy between the theory and practice of politics. So this is the problem that the author is talking about. So since I'm critical of British government policy, let me start by recognizing the problems. The problem is that the British politicians still live in the theoretical world. They are not recognizing or accepting the problems of the real world. So in a theoretical world, in a liberal society, it is not correct to control immigration, but in the real world, controlling immigration is the first step to protect a liberal society. So CA is another sentence pair. C is talking about the recognizing the problem. A is the problem. Now, what is B? Beginning of wisdom means the first step in solving the problem or in understanding the problem is to distinguish between various types of categories of migration: asylum, family reunification, EU and non-EU, for work and study, and especially to separate students from others. Yes. So what is the meaning of this? The first step in understanding or solving the problem is to categorize immigration into essential and non-essential categories. So which are the categories migration should be allowed, which are the categories migration should not be allowed. So that kind of categorization is required. That is the meaning of statement B. So where should statement B come? Statement B is a final statement in this particular sequence, because first either we talk about the sentence pair CA and the sentence pair ED, And then finally, we say the first step in beginning of wisdom means the first step in solving or understanding the problem is to categorize immigration into essential and non-essential varieties, so that we can decide whom to give permission to migrate, whom not to give permission to migrate. So this is the answer. So here, if you put a CA or ED first is not a problem. Either CAEDB is a good sequence or EDCAB is a good sequence. Do we have CAEDB anywhere here? Yes, we have one sequence here. Whether we have EDCAB, no, EDCAB is not there. EDABC. EDABC, will it become a good sequence? In some political theories, hypothetical universe, the beginning of wisdom, since I am critical. No, since I am critical should come first. So EDABC you can directly ignore. What about BCAED? First, we talk about the beginning of wisdom. No, the beginning of wisdom should come at the last. So that is why BCAD is also wrong. BCDA is also wrong. So B should not come in the beginning. So what is the only answer? CAEDB. So you can see the sequence here. Let me start by recognizing the problem. So the political theory says that it is wrong to control immigration in a liberal society, but in the real world, controlling immigration is a precondition to the liberal society. So this contradiction or this dichotomy, the politicians are not realizing that is the problem with the British government's policy on immigration. And then we talk about immigration as being the top concern of voters in Britain and how voters are concerned. There is an example. So then the last step, the beginning of wisdom would be to start distinguish between various categories of migration between EU, non-EU, etc. So this is why CAEDB will be the correct answer. Now go to the there is a question number 5. What this question is talking about? It is talking about the oil prices in India. And a lot of statements are made. So here again, it is better to go for the making the sentence pairs because that will make the task more easy. Instead of forming a sequence, it is better to form sentence pairs. So what can we do regarding the sentences? See, this sentence says, in the absence of a global marker price, global demand and supply would be irrelevant to for pricing gas in the Indian market. So, if you there is we cannot follow the global marker price, means an index price for the pricing or fixing prices in the Indian markets because there is no such index price in the global the international level. So since there is no such index price for oil or gas products in the international level, global demand and supply is not a relevant factor for pricing the gas in the Indian market. So then what then comes that leaves the domestic demand and supply. So here we are saying that global demand and supply are irrelevant. So means we have to fix prices on the basis of domestic demand and supply. So DB is very clearly a sentence pair, right? Then what? Today, there is a serious supply shortage in the domestic market created by the very entity which now claims a higher price. So we can say that there is a serious supply shortage in the domestic market. Who has created it? The very entity which now claims a higher gas price. So who is that entity? Not stated. So we can say that this supply shortage in the domestic market is because of a particular company which now claims a higher gas price. So then we talk about that particular company. Reliance Industries Limited had claimed, means they had claimed, this word had is very important. So they had claimed that you to produce 80 million cubic meter per day standard cubic meters of gas, even when they had built a cross-country pipeline. So Reliance Industries had claimed that they will be producing so much a million cubic meter tons of gas per day and built a cross-country pipeline. So what is the implication here? If by these two sentences, they did not meet with their claim, or they did not live up to their claim. That is the implication. So that is why the very entity which the supply shortage in the domestic market is created by the very entity which now claims a higher gas price. So they are claiming a higher gas price now. So this is the meaning. So here you can say that CE will be a sentence pair. CE, right? CE will be a sentence pair. Whether it so you can say that this is the global market price cannot be uh, a good index for fixing prices in the Indian market. Only domestic demand and supply can be the market the index for fixing prices. Now there is a shortage of supply in the domestic market created by the company which had claimed that they will be producing a lot of gas for us to meet all the demands. That is the meaning. So D, B, C. Now, where do we put A? Even if we dismiss all the citing inefficiency of fertilizer, power, and transport, there are other compelling reasons for not pricing gas purely on the basis of supply and demand. Where can we put it? See the in D there is a statement. First of all, here we say that there are other compelling reasons for not pricing gas purely on the basis of supply and demand. So what we can say? We can say that the passage might have been discussing many other factors regarding pricing of oil prices in India, and then they discussed about power, fertilizer, transport, etc. But the author says that there are other compelling reasons for not pricing gas purely on the basis of supply and demand. So you can say that A is a first sentence where the passage is talking about a lot of issues that were affecting the oil prices in our country. And even if we dismiss all these issues, there are other reasons for not pricing gas purely on the basis of supply and demand. And first among these reasons, so other compelling reasons, first of these reasons. So first of this reason is global supply and demand has lowered the relevance to the Indian market. That leaves domestic demand and supply. Even in domestic demand and supply, there is a supply shortage created by a company which had claimed that it would produce a lot of oil and had actually went ahead and created an oil refinery. Still, they did not live up to the claim. So this is why the passage is basically arguing that not only the international demand and supply or the domestic demand and supply can be a good criteria for fixing gas prices in India. This is the meaning. So the essential idea is that neither the domestic demand and supply nor the international demand and supply are going to be good criteria for fixing gas prices in India. So ADBCE will be a better answer. CADBE, CA is not going to be a good pair. To even if you dismiss all of this, it cannot follow C, so you can ignore this. DEBAC, D, then E. No, E is always followed by B, so you can ignore this. Then EADBC, E. Even if we dismiss all of this, even if we dismiss Reliance doing all these things, again, illogical. EA cannot be a sentence pair, so that's also is not a good answer. So this kind of rechecking you can do to reconfirm our answer. So the only possible logical answer is ADBC. Even if you dismiss all of this citing inefficiency, there are other compelling reasons for not pricing gas. Other compelling reasons. First of these reason, global demand and supply cannot be a good thing. Then that leaves domestic demand and supply. But even in domestic demand and supply, there is a serious supply shortage. So such kind of supply shortages are created by companies which promise or which claim that they will be providing a lot of oil into the country. So domestic demand and supply also is not going to be reliable when you try to fix gas prices in India. So this is the meaning. So this is the only logical sequence through which we can jumble this particular paragraph. So hope you have found the video and the contents to be useful in your preparation. Please like, share, and subscribe and try to spread the word regarding this channel so that I get more reach, which will motivate me to come out with further videos. Thank you. Bye bye.